Hi everyone, Sharabin here, and happy Halloween! If there is one type of video that I really like watching, that would be what if videos. I really like the idea of taking a series I already love it, but keep making it a small change which can then lead to a completely different result. And for a while, I really wanted to make my own what if videos. And considering I like Pokemon, I decided to make one. And I believe one what if video that you might be thinking about is, what if Haunter actually joined as a team? Because if you watch the original series, Haunter never joined as a team. If you look on Wikipedia's page, it only lists Haunter as a Pokemon that traveled with Ash, not one that was caught by Ash. But in this what if, I'm gonna explore the possibility of what if Haunter became part of Ash's team and became a member for a longer period of time. And so, without further ado, let's begin. Our story begins outside the Saffron City gym, where Haunter had just managed to get Sabrina to laugh, freeing her emotion gift from her psychic powers. However, as Sabrina is about to hand Ash the March badge, Haunter decides to swoop down and snatch it, causing everyone to be surprised. Before they could get the chance to ask, Haunter suddenly pulls out a couple of boxing gloves, goes in front of Sabrina, indicating it wanted to fight. Haunter managed to explain through a very comedy method that when it saw Pikachu battling Kadabra, it found it quite fun and wanted to try it out. So, Ash and Sabrina does agree to have Haunter having a Pokemon battle against Kadabra. As the battle begins, it immediately becomes apparent that both of them have very similar style when it comes to disappearing and reappearing. The only difference is that Kadabra's is precise and focused, while Haunter's is chaotic and unpredictable. And if there's one thing Ash and Haunter have in common, it's unpredictability. I'm able to read Haunter's unlogical movement and use it for pranks with advantage. Ash managed to have Haunter disappear right before he gets hit and managed to strike from behind with a couple of licks, which even managed to paralyze it. However, Sabrina and Haunter are no pushovers and managed to land some psychic attack which weakened Haunter. After a while, they immediately decide to fight off Psybeam and Nightshade respectively. While there's even, as the old saying goes, two heads are better than one, or in this case, beams, as Haunter's two eye-beams managed to outpower Kadabra's beam, knocking it out, giving Ash and Haunter the victory. As Haunter floats around cheering, I think Ash commented a great job as Haunter suddenly pulls off a magic hat and immediately tucks one of his hands into it and pulling out the March badge and giving it to Ash. However, Haunter then looks into the hat, seeing there is something else in there. He then gets to Ash to pull out whatever is left in the hat, and what Ash pulls out is actually a Pokeball, which Haunter suddenly floats up to and taps it, getting it stuck inside. Ash lets Haunter out and asks why he did that. Haunter explains while he found Sabrina funny, Ash seemed to be a kind of guy that could get a lot of fun adventures, and he didn't want to be left out. Understanding Haunter's decision, Ash, Misty, Brock, and Pikachu depart from Saffron City with a new companion in hand. As our heroes traveled towards Celadon City, our heroes ran into a Mankey while they were reading some rice balls. Once Haunter decided to spot him, he decided to play some prank on Mankey, which immediately laughed at. It turns out that these two actually turned out to be very similar, both being a little cheeky and liking pranks. So once Ash displayed interest in catching Mankey, Mankey is actually far more interested. Seeing that he might be able to hang out with his new pet Haunter more, it found the idea far more interesting. However, that's when Team Rocket shows up and attempts to try to catch a Pikachu as usual. But that's when Haunter said he's gonna have a little prank with them and asked Mankey to help him out. So the two rushed towards Team Rocket and I thought to perform a comedy act, or basically being about a slapstick comedy, which caused Team Rocket to laugh so much that they can't even concentrate enough to see if Pikachu has shot up a thunderbolt, sending them blasting off. Seeing how happy Haunter and Mankey are together, Ash asks Mankey if he just wants to join them, which Mankey eagerly nods, and with that Ash decided to catch it. However, just then Mankey's Pokemon disappeared, and Ash remembered that he currently has 6 Pokemon, and any more Pokemon he catches from now on gonna be automatically sent to Professor Oak's lab. This unfortunately causes Haunter to be a bit sad, since he really wanted to play more prank alongside Mankey. But that's when Brock reminds Ash about the button on his Pokédex, which can help him switch out Pokemon. While Ash wants to do it, he's not really sure what Pokemon he's going to send to Professor Oak's lab. With that, Brock gives him the suggestion of he should focusing on his newer Pokemon, which he has got enough time with them. Ash being a bit confused, Brock helps Ash to understand that Pikachu and Pidgeotto has been with Ash ever since Viridian Forest, or earlier in Pikachu's case. And so, they are definitely the more experienced and are definitely the stronger ones. However, in this case, it's good to allow his strongest Pokemon to take a bit of a backseat in order to let them rest, at the same time training up his newest member. Now wanting to separate from Pikachu, I decided to send Pidgeotto over to the lab, and Mankey is added to the team. Being brought back to his pal Haunter, Mankey immediately starts jumping around and snagging at his hat, and the two pranksters immediately start running around with Ash's hat, and he chases after them. A while later, the heroes arrive in Cellular City, and things pretty much go the same until the point where Ash's gym battle happens. And for the most part, things go the same as it did in canon, with Ash first shooting Bulbasaur against Tangela, but Bulbasaur getting knocked out. However, in this case, since Mankey has not evolved into Primeape and is not already angry, Ash actually be able to use Mankey, which is able to take out both Tangela and be able to take down Victory Bell. But just then, Gloom shows up, and unfortunately, it then is enough to immediately knock Mankey out. And so Ash relies on his final Pokemon, Charmander, which immediately be able to use fire type moves from a distance, and after a while a flamethrower is enough to take out Gloom, winning out the gym battle. But however, that's when Team Rocket shows up and immediately sets fire to the gym just like it did in canon. However, with Haunter's ability to face through walls, it's actually able to take some other Pokemon outside, removing them far quicker than it did in canon. I mean, everyone was saying, and Ash had officially earned his Rainbow Badge. The king eventually comes to Hop 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 Town, where the event of Drowsy and Hypno pretty much plays out the same, except that Haunter is way more useful, actually be able to sense his energy much earlier. But everything pretty much goes the same, with Misty eventually also adding on Psyduck, but not being too happy about it. But Haunter finds it quite funny and pretty much starts laughing his guts out. Or I guess lack of guts. Anyway, eventually we have the event of the P1 Grand Prix, which Ash uses Mankey, which pretty much goes the same, except Mankey being actually obedient to Ash, they'll be able to synchronize far better than they did in canon. And eventually actually get all the way to the final, where they faces up against Team Rocket, which in disguise, and the Hitmonlee. Unfortunately, Hitmonlee pretty much lay a beatdown on Mankey, actually causing it to get so angry it evolved into Primeape. With managed to snatch it and delivering a powerful seismic toss, winning the P1 Grand Prix. I still get the offer of Anthony to train Primeape as a P1 champion. However, Primeape wants to stay with Haunter, having found a close relationship with the ghost type, and while he's far more interested in fighting than pranks, he still likes hanging around with the ghost type. So he decides to stay. Seeing that what Primeape wants, I decide to have Primeape stay with him for now. And with that, the group continues onward to the next destination. Things pretty much stays on canon course for a while, until the group reaches Fuchsia City, where Ash takes on Koga for his 6th gym badge. While Koga used his Venomoth, which got from a Venom earlier, Ash actually goes with Haunter. As he be able to use disappearing and like a ninja would, Haunter be able to avoid pretty much all Venomous moves and deliver some pretty solid hits before eventually taking it out. However, that is when Koga sent in his final Pokemon, Golbat. While Ash attempts to use the disappearing attack again, Golbat is actually be able to use his screech to destroy Haunter long enough for it to be able to land a few attacks, which actually ends up knocking it out. After a quick interference from Team Rocket, the battle continues onward with Golbat going up against Charmander, which pretty much got the same as canon, with Ash managing to win, getting his 6th gym badge without much of a problem. For the most part, things doesn't change. That is until we get to the episode The Legend of Dratini. This is basically, just so you know, this is the banned episode of the anime where Ash caught all of his 30 Tauros. This actually plays out a bit differently. While the one said they're not allowed to battling or attack the wild Pokemon in the Safari Zone, Ash and Haunter understand that there were no rules against pranking and being a bit mischievous. They actually using a strategy of having Haunter disappear and reappearing with other wild Pokemon, disorienting them a bit. And actually performing a bit of a comedy, which lures some of the wild Pokemon in. So while Ash still ends up catching a majority of Tauros, he's also managed to add on a Rhyhorn he attempted to catch in the cannon, and also a Cypher, which found that Haunter's act a bit too childish and tried to slice it out, which caused Haunter to perform an overdramatic dying act, which stunned Cypher just to, what the heck is happening? But when he finds out that his trainer actually injured in strong battlers, Cypher is actually interested in joining as a team, so he allows her to be caught. The rest of the episode pretty much goes the same as canon, but when Ash calls Professor Oak to ask how his Pokemon are doing, Professor Oak reveals that it's a bit of chaos, because all the Pokemon Ash said either is interested in battling, like his Cypher, but some of the others are a little disappointed that Haunter isn't there, because they really find his comedy quite fun. Ash realized this, and that maybe time that he sent over Primeape and Haunter to Professor Oak's lab for a while. Meaning that they definitely have become some of his more powerful Pokemon, and they both actually are really into the idea. Primeape really got into battling and now gets to fight more powerful opponent, and Haunter getting a ton of more friends to just play pranks with. So it's a win-win. And so, Ash sent over Haunter and Primeape over to Professor Oak's lab, Ash actually brings back Pidgeotto as well as Krabby. Surprising Misty and Brock, since I guess I never actually used Krabby, and I decided that, well, since he hadn't used it, it's a pretty good argument for keeping it around for now. Which actually becomes quite apparent in the episode with the Biker Gang, as Krabby sent out to battle the Golem instead of Charmander. Krabby proved to be a pretty powerful battler, actually being able to take it out and stop its powerful rollout. Things for that point pretty much go the same in canon, including Charmander evolving to Charmeleon and becoming disobedient, until we reach the episode The Problem with Paris, where as the gang still running the Paris, however I decided to hide Krabby battle, which actually proved to be a very useful thing. Since Paris' claws is pretty similar to Krabby's claws, they basically do some training together, eventually getting their confidence. So with Paris having a battle with Krabby, the battle is not too far off, which actually triggered an evolution for both of them, with Paris evolving into Parasite and Krabby becoming Kingler. And Krabby becoming Kingler far earlier than in canon, which caused Anne to be so happy he runs over to Kingler giving it a hug. This evolution actually captured the attention of one other, Charmeleon. Ever since it evolved, it never really wanted to do anything as said. It just didn't feel like it was worth it. However, seeing Kingler, the Pokemon that previously had the title of not being used in any battle, actually evolve, this surprises me, because Charmeleon didn't think it's gonna evolve now or ever. I feel like it could actually provide a bit of a training dummy, as little as may be. Charmeleon has to battle Kingler. However, without listening to that order, it pretty much becomes a battle with the Pokemon doing all the work. Unfortunately, Kingler is far too powerful, using its big claw to block all of Charmeleon's attack, before blasting it away with powerful bubble and white scripts. Eventually, Charmeleon gets so angry, it charges in with a rage, but that's when Kingler opens his large claw to fire off a hyper beam, slamming Charmeleon into a tree and knocking it out completely. This loss shakes Charmeleon. How could it lose? It literally has been the actual stronger Pokemon. It can't just lose to something like this. This causes Charmeleon to be far more aggressive at this point. However, it comes to a point when we get to the attack of the prehistoric Pokemon, which things pretty much go the same, even Charmeleon evolving into Charizard. Once it's all completed, Charizard actually forces Kingler to another battle. I tried to stop it, but Charizard quickly blasted with a flamethrower and knocking at his side. Kingler is surprised to see Charizard just attack Ash like that, so that got Kingler to actually engage Charizard in the battle. While Charizard's new flight does give it an advantage, Kingler actually learned to adapt. Managed to block Charizard's flamethrower with a bubble beam causing a bunch of steam, which causes Charizard to be completely disoriented, not be able to see. Charizard tries to rush in closely. Kingler uses his big claw to smack it away. Eventually, Charizard managed to sneak up behind Kingler and lift it up into the air, trying to deliver a seismic toss to finish it off. However, unbeknownst to him, Kingler shot up a hyper beam in his claw, and as Charizard is about to slam Kingler into the ground, it fires it right to the ground, causing a giant explosion which engulfs them both. Once the dust settled, both of them lie on the ground with expanders in their eyes, indicating a draw. However, Charizard sees it as a loss. How? How can it lose again? Kingler has not battled in any major battle like him. He only evolved recently. Elaborate his loss as a Charmeleon to King as a fluke because it just evolved. It naturally has gotten stronger. However, Charizard just evolved. It should have easily won, but it lost again. How? Even after they healed, Charizard is shaken. It just sits silently and not attempting anything. At his word, but Brock points out that he knows what's going on. Charizard always prides itself on being the strongest, being unbeatable. However, after a loss to a Pokemon that it saw as inferior, all the confidence he had previously had is now gone. Asks Brock what he should do, and Brock says that now Charizard needs to decide how it wants to move forward. Want to continue moping and just give up, or if he wants to push through. Brock also suggests that maybe some alone time away from Kingler would probably do Charizard some good. Wanting what's best for his Pokemon, Ash agreed and sent over Charizard to Breath of Claw in exchange for Haunter. Feeling that the mood has gotten a bit darker lately, with Charizard disobedient, I thought the Jolly Ghost could brighten the mood just a bit. At the lab, Charizard has pretty much been sitting alone and moping, not really feeling eager to train. However, he noticed that some of Ash's other Pokemon is actually doing a pretty good job with his training, particularly Primeape and Cypher. Both of them being eager battlers actually started improving their moves a lot. While Charizard wants to battle, he's still a bit shaken after his recent losses. However, that improver O shows up, telling that Ash have given Charizard a little message. The message said that he wishes Charizard to become better and really look forward to battling it once again. Hearing that actually primed Charizard a bit. Even after being disobedient and losing recently, Ash still values it as a Pokemon and still want to battle with it. This must actually lighten Charizard up a bit, eventually moving towards Primeape and Cypher asking to join in. Being eager for another training partner, both of them agree and the three immediately begin their training. At the same time, Hunter managed to liven up the mood a bit after a recent Aerodactyl attack, and things are pretty much gone the same as they did in canon. Until the episode where Team Rocket steal the Pokemon egg that Ash finds while in Grandpa Canyon. But once Ash and his friend had managed to find Team Rocket, having Haunter around, Ash actually thinking of an idea of using Haunter to go in and take the egg, without Team Rocket noticing anything. Surprised is that he would use Haunter of our Pokemon, so he allowed Haunter to come out and explain the situation as that this is serious. Then in goofy fashion, pulls out a drill sergeant hat and gives a salute like Ash was a general. Brock, seeing this plan could actually work, tells Ash to use Bulbasaur's sleep powder to put Team Rocket to sleep, since the powder wouldn't be affecting the egg. Nodding at this, Ash had Bulbasaur using sleep powder in the open door, which causes the entire room to fill with the sleep powder, which causes the trio to fall asleep. With that, Haunter quickly float in, take the egg, and replacing it with a rock with a ridiculous face looking on it. Then they immediately all bolt out of there. With that, Haunter hopes that he succeeded in his mission. I think Haunter a great job until the egg glows brightly. They all look at it in shock. Haunter surprised, not expecting an egg to do that, until the egg starts glowing, and what pops out is a small happy face. And upon seeing Haunter, gives out a small laugh, revealing it to hatch into a Pokemon. Ash then pulls out the Pokédex and reveals that the Pokemon hat is a Togepi. Surprised to see a Pokemon Ash, Haunter tried to give it all to Ash, but that's when Togepi started crying. He did not like it. Ash had Haunter take it back and they seemed to calm it down. Confused by it, Ash looked through the Pokédex and the Pokédex explained that the Togepi imprint on the first thing it sees and claiming it to be a parent. And since it was Haunter in this case, it seen the Haunter as its father. A revelation which shocked Haunter. It's a prankster, not a parent. But understanding the situation, Ash said that he will help Haunter in any way he can. Seeing how Ash trusts him, Haunter agreed that having him take care of Togepi most likely would be the best option. Both Misty and Brock agreed to it, seeing that now that Togepi has imprinted on someone, having one of them become a trainer would just complicate it a lot. So they all agree Ash will eventually become Togepi's trainer, but only until he becomes older. That's when Team Rocket once again show up, but they managed to send her flying, with Haunter demonstrating his trickery and actually causes Togepi to laugh. Seeing that it likes it, Haunter gets happy, seeing that it might be able to enjoy more fun time with Togepi. However, from that point onward, things pretty much go the same as they did in canon for a long time. Since the majority of the future events wouldn't change that much with Haunter present, it would have been a difference during the Princess for the Princess, since Misty would have asked Haunter during Protest in Bulbasaur's place, seeing that a ghost type could really be helpful. And then seeing Haunter actually participating in the battle, this causes Togepi to laugh. Finding his father's ending in Pokemon battle are a lot of fun. And after this, our hero arrives at Cinnabar Island and eventually get to the gym, meaning it's time for her to take on Blaine. The battle starts out the same with Squirtle vs Ninetale and Squirtle getting barbecued. But then acting like Kingler was actually able to take down Ninetale before placing a Rhydon. This battle becomes a battle of strength. But eventually, Kingler managed to swing up a powerful crab hammer as Rhydon slams into it with a double net, causing both of them to fall back, resulting in a double knockout. Finally, it becomes the last Pokemon with Pikachu and Magmar. Unfortunately, this battle goes pretty much the same as they did in canon, with Magmar being the winner, giving Ash a loss. While they were recovering, Ash started thinking how he's supposed to counter Magmar, being definitely the strongest fighter I've ever seen, and he had doubted that Kingler and Squirtle will be able to take it out with water attacks. He started to thinking what Pokemon could take on that fire, and the word fire lingered in his head, and he realized what Pokemon might be able to do it. Making a quick phone call, he brings back one Pokemon he thinks could help. But just then, Team Rocket shows up and immediately causing the volcano to almost erupt. Using all of their current Pokemon, they managed to stop the volcano from erupting, and Blaine accepts a rematch on top of the volcano. As Blaine did in Magmar again, that's when Ash throws out a Pokeball, and out of it comes Charizard. Misty and Brock are surprised seeing Ash using it, since last time they saw each other, it did not really go well. However, Ash tells Charizard that they are going to face a top Pokemon, and he needs his strength. Charizard looked at it, and as Misty and Brock think he's going to flamethrower him, Charizard immediately stops and getting into battle position. As the battle goes on, it's clear that Charizard sort is reluctantly listening to Ash. It do use the attack when I tell it to, but it does have a small window of delay. Like, it's not fully sure it trusts Ash. Like, it's not fully sure to trust Ash with its full strength. However, even then, it's still a pretty powerful Pokemon. And Magmar and Charlotte are pretty even. And thus, the battle pretty much goes the same as it did in Canada, with Charlotte managed to win against Magmar, meaning Ash officially earned his 7th gym badge. Ash then rushed over to Charizard, giving it a big hug, and Charizard getting a bit annoyed, but he doesn't go against actually burning Ash to a crisp and just allows the hug. But very reluctantly. But from this point onward, we pretty much have a common stretch of canon, including Ash's final gym battle, which pretty much goes the same with him having to battle Team Rocket, and due to the cheating and getting blown away, Ash actually managed to earn his final gym badge. Once they arrive in Palatown, things pretty much go the same as they did in canon, so that Haunter introduction hasn't really changed anything major. However, after a few months of training, eventually the team comes to the Pokemon League, where it's time for Ash to take off in the preliminary. The first match really doesn't change because if Ash could win the first match with just Krabby, which avoiding the Kingler during the match, having Kingler right away is an easy the same result. The second battle on the rock field, Ash uses actually Primeape, which actually managed to take down majority Pokemon before Squirtle gets the finishing move. On the ice field, it starts the battles because its fire actually causes the ice to melt away earlier, so when Arcanine appears, it actually doesn't have a way to actually attack. Next is the grass field, where Ash actually uses Cypher for the first time, where he actually managed to take out both his opponent's Beedrill and her own Cypher, before the crazily about the Bellsprout shows up, where Ash is able to take down Cypher, which leads Ash to using Mach to get the win. Meaning that Ash has managed to get past the preliminary rounds and managed to get to the top 16 far easier than in canon. However, this has the side effect of Ash getting overconfident, especially considering Gary had already lost the league at this point. Brock tried to remind Ash about what he told him about trying to use his less powerful Pokemon, giving his stronger one more of a break. However, Ash doesn't take it seriously, thinking it was not going to be necessary. However, Ash's overconfidence doesn't really change the fact that he still ends up meeting Richie, with the two of them becoming friends, as well as Team Rocket causing him getting delayed and several of his Pokemon being exhausted. However, thanks to Haunters and its spooky nature, Ash managed to get out of the restraints far quicker, so he arrives at the stadium not as delayed. So the battle between Ash and Rishi begins. Rishi begins with Happy the Butterfree, as Ash still ends up using Squirtle, which unfortunately had the same result. Ash then uses Pikachu, which actually is able to take down Butterfree before falling to Sippo the Charmander. As his last Pokemon, Ash actually decided to go with Haunter, seeing he has the Battle Jet and he is really reliable. And this battle doesn't really change shit, with Haunter still ending up winning. Just then, Rishi sent out his final Pokemon, Sparky the Pikachu, and the battle between the two are pretty even. Eventually, it comes down to a collision between Thunderbolt and Nightshade, which eventually leads to an explosion across the battlefield, and when the dust clears, Pikachu is lying unconscious, but Haunter is nowhere to be seen. However, before anyone can start panicking, Haunter appears from the battleground and just giving a goofy pose, indicating that he's fully fine to battle. Meaning Ash has managed to get past the top 16 and actually moves forward to the top 8, with Ash rushing over to Haunter, giving it a big hug as the two of them celebrate. However, this is where the celebration comes to an end, as Brock's earlier prediction comes true that using his more powerhouse Pokemon has caused him to become tired, and his sneaked opponent takes advantage of that. And having already seen Ash's powerhouse Pokemon, they have managed to construct a team specifically designed to take down all of Ash's powerhouses. After Kingler, Cypher, and even Charizard fall, Ash started to panic. Ash still tried using the remainder of his Pokemon to get the edge, but in the end, he still ended up losing, meaning Ash's league round ends in the top 8. The following day, Ash spent the majority of the time in his room. Seeing how Rishi is not battling, he really has no real need to go out, so he's made his time in the room. When his friend checked on him, Ash admits that Brock was right. He shouldn't have relied so much on just a few Pokemon, because that caused him to be exhausted, and that cost him dearly. Brock said that he's fine, admitting the compliment that he made cut to the top 8 in his first ever league. Not many people can actually say they did that. Ash smiles a bit at it, but just then Haunter appear and immediately pulls on a goofy act, which causes Ash to laugh in much joy. With Ash being lifted out once again, the trio exit the room and watch the remaining of the tournament before they start making their way to Pilot Town, wondering what next adventure is gonna be around the corner. And that is where we will leave things for now. What did you think of this What If so far? I really like working on this What If, and if this What If does well, I might continue on with the series or start working on a different one. But that will be all for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!